Radio.
Hi, everybody. Welcome in. You're listening to another episode of Dialing Into Your Soul Thursday Show. I'm Ernesto. I'm your host. I'll be with you here for the next hour or so, and I do have Viretta on the line. Just want to let everybody know that we are rebranding the show, just change the name up to something that's a little bit more in alignment with what we do here. Obviously, Uranian Astrology uses something called a dial, which is just like a circular ruler that we use to measure the half distances in between planets out in the sky. But the dial, not only is it just the tool that we use to measure symmetry, it's just a play on words that we're dialing into your soul. Because when we read your chart with Uranian Astrology, by reading the past, present, and the future charts together as one, we're actually looking at a snapshot of your soul and where you are in any given moment, and also where you've headed, as well as where you've been in the past. So that's kind of where this name came from, is we're really sort of dialing into your soul in the show. And I know that this is going to be the platform that we'll be using to take questions from you guys. So if you do have a question, be sure to give us a call here. I know we've been doing podcasts recently. That phone number is going to be area code 319-527-6071. And Viretta, I do have you on the line here with me tonight. Now, let us know, what do we need? We're going to be back with you guys again on, it looks like, the 6th here. So that's going to be in another week and a half or so. But Viretta, what do we need to know in this short period here of about 10 days?
When I look at it, I keep rehashing things we talked about in the past, but it feels to me like there is a subtle movement forward if you allow it to be, backward if you try to defy the system. I feel like there's a lot of things going on for people in a way that they'd like to take shortcuts, but the reality is really just sinking in they can't. And so they might as well just go ahead and do whatever it takes and get it done instead of wasting time on figuring out how to do it quicker. And I'm not sure where that comes from as far as, the dialogue on what we need to look for, but reality of it is there may be a lot of strong stuff happening this week. And if we don't have our ducks in a row, it's going to catch up to us. And the only recompense we have for being able to get past that is to say, all right, I decide to go ahead and go with the rhythm. And for those that, are rebels to the soul, they can't do anything they're told in the way they're told to do it. They're going to be hit. They're going to be hit hardest. But even recognition by them will be made that it really is better this time to do what you need to do to get it over and quit wasting time trying to figure out what to do to make it go away.
Do you think, in a way, that this also relates to you might have to lower your standards in terms of whatever it is that you're working towards?
Oh, yeah. Your standards, your goals, your expectations, all those need to kind of be put away because this is not going to be the time to try to flex those muscles. You're being groomed or put in a place or position of importance, and honestly, you better do what you need to do to let that happen, because whatever it is then that is supposed to take place around you will without any repercussion. So trying not to get out of this, trying to cut corners on things, or not doing it smart in a manner of just doing it the way it calls for, then you've got a lot of icky ahead in the next 10 days.
I've been working on running into the flames, which just very simply means all of those things that I have been so afraid of doing in the past, either because I didn't have time or I didn't feel it was necessary, or really most of all because I was just too busy brokering in my own BS and telling myself, that's not needed. There's a shortcut here. There's some other way that I can get around doing this. And I've discovered, you know what? Nope. Sorry, Ernesto. You got to run into the flames if you want this. If you want to grow from this whole experience, there's not going to be any brokering and BS that's going to be involved. It's sort of like, I would like to do intermittent fasting. Meanwhile, I drink sweet tea, or I drink Pepsi, or I drink some other drink as opposed to just straight black coffee or tea. And that doesn't break a fast, right? I'm still not eating anything. But then, we broke our BS and tell ourselves the sugar doesn't matter, but the sugar absolutely does matter. So that's where we sort of have to draw the line and say, I'm just going to go all the way. And if I don't do it 100%, it may not be the best, and tomorrow's a new day. And that's all right. But hey, at least I gave it a shot, which is a hell of a lot more than what I could have said in the past.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you have to give yourself that validation. You're much farther along than you used to be, but that doesn't mean you're 100%. So you still got to learn with a little bit of balance what you got going on to get there. And you're going through the paces. You're paying your dues. You're doing what you need to make sure that the outcome is acceptable and that you can keep moving forward instead of having to do damage control and wipe up what could have been because you wanted to cut corners.
And the hardest part about that whole process is just taking the first step, because we're so comfortable in this warm, fuzzy cocoon that why do we need to go out into the big, scary world and do these other things? Well, and this sort of gets into what we talked about in our last Alchemy Annex episode, is that the concept of being scared shirtless isn't so much that you're doing really scary, terrifying things. It's more about the fact that you have faith that there is a better life somewhere out there. You're not really sure what that is. You may not be able to see that right off the bat. But just by doing the same repetitive actions over and over again, you're creating new energy for yourself that you didn't in the past. So there is a reasonable expectation that we can grow and change from this. And that's the promise of life, is that just by changing ourselves, that by modifying this one tiny little aspect of my behavior, that I can manifest and achieve new things and explore new heights and territories than ever before.
Right, right. The new doesn't have to be scary. And that's what's the terrifying part of getting out of our comfort zone. Is new usually, brings a promise, opportunity, good things. But when we talk about running into the fire associated with the new, then we're wondering what kind of a rock we fell off and hit our head on, because you're no more going to try to run into a flame than you are anything else. But you know what? The reality of it is if you're put in a position to have to, you would. So these are the exercises that teach you to know the caliber of person of who you are, so that you know that you would run into the flame, but with reasonable expectation of a good outcome, because you're going in there for a reason and run right back out. You don't want to go in there and die and dwindle. You just want to go in and do what you need to do, get it over with, get back. And that's what this is all about. Do it the first time. And you will not have to take the third and fourth and fifth time out because you didn't learn it right, or you didn't do it right, or you didn't want to do it, giving up and surrendering your own way. So yeah, it makes a difference. Not being scared shirtless is a good thing. And understanding that there's always maybe a little trepidation in something that you've never done before. And that's healthy, that's normal. But to let it turn into a panic, freaked out, oh my God, what am I doing kind of thing, it's ridiculous. If you signed up for it at some point when you were sure you could do it, then there's probably a pretty good component that if you try, at least you get past that. And if you try and you don't succeed, then you know for a fact that, well, okay, this really wasn't about that. It was something along my way in this journey that I was supposed to learn. So let me see. What did I maybe flake off because I didn't want to pay attention to it? And now you got to backtrack. But you know what? You learn things along the way, doing it the right way, and new opportunities will come. And that's what new should express. To anybody that's scared to death of bunch, get out of their comfort zone just a little bit. Get out of their rut and routine just enough to know that you're experiencing something different. And see what you get in energy. See that it brings, that, like you were saying, renewed energy, better thoughts. Nothing hurts. Things are happening. I am in control. All of those doubts that we have, that the what if zone, that keep us really at bay from reaching our full potential.
And for me, the biggest question that I have of all is, how the heck did I end up here? I am coming, I would hope, towards the end of a very long cycle of pain and despair through my own interpersonal relationships that's culminating, weirdly enough, in a Venus retrograde of all of the different periods in astrology. So, what I have been doing over the past, who knows what, like 15, 20 years almost, just dancing in circles, looking for something, never really knowing what it is. Meanwhile, I am burning bridges, expecting to be stabbed in the back, doing so many self-destructive things to that prevent myself from moving forward. I keep shooting myself in the foot, and guess what? I become addicted to this experience of pain and despair because this is all that I've ever known. So how is it ever going to change or get any better? And now all of a
Right.
sudden, after this, towards like the last couple of months, it's really been a huge transformative cycle to where I can say that I'm starting to understand what it is that I need to work on myself. And guess what? It's never in a million years what I thought it was supposed to be from the very beginning of all of this nonsense. And as I keep going
Sure.
through my day, I keep seeing things that remind me of, oh, these are the issues that you need to work on. Or these are the parts of yourself that you've neglected in the past, whether if that's self care or if that's my interpersonal relationships, whatever it may be. The whole point is that resources, new structures, new people are literally being served on a silver platter out of the blue that I never asked for in a million years. And I was so surprised to discover this is exactly what I need. How the heck did I attract this for myself? And that's the thing that I keep going through in my mind. Like, how did we reach a point to where after this really long cycle of pain and despair that I can finally find the resources and the things that are healthy for me so that I am inspired and empowered to incite change and to want to grow and learn from this whole experience and everything else that's going on in my life. But the one thing that remains true throughout all of this is sort of like I have continued to do the things that bring me joy, whether if that's writing a book or writing a screenplay or playing my games, whatever that may be. I'm always doing something that just makes me happy. As of right now, it's been getting physically fit and expending my physical energy in different ways through exercise. This is a relatively new pillar that's been installed into my life. And I'm very pleased with it. I'm really surprised how that warp speed mental filing cabinet just shuts up for a change. That's beautiful. I love it. And the point is that as I keep going through the motions in day to day life by being stuck in the mundane, but still building my own personal currency through my own personal economy of what makes me happy, that has opened the way for all of these other things to be served to me on a silver platter. And then I can say, oh, I don't know what that is, but I am open to it. That is one thing that I will give myself credit for in this whole process is I have always been open to everything. I have never just flat out said no. I will admit I'm definitely not going to drink from the toilet. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Or I'm not going to eat black olives because I just don't like them. I'm definitely going to have hard lines for the really logical kinds of things, but everything else I am open to. I don't know if this is something that I want or if I need, but I'll give it a try. And if I don't like it, then I don't have to do it again. You know, there is no harm or punishment in trying something that is not right for you. But being open to these things is really sort of what it all comes down to because I never specifically said, I only want to make friends with doctors and lawyers, and then I attract anything but. Because remember, God has a sense of humor. So whenever you put a thought or a desire out into the universe, you're probably going to get something just as wild, but in a totally different way that you didn't expect. But guess what? Again, it's the exact thing that your soul needs because your soul designed it this way. That's why you keep attracting these things. And if you're getting the same results over and over and over again, and it's just the same story narrative BS that you're trying to grow out of, then that very simply means that you need to shift your day-to-day life in such a way that that personal alchemy builds in a different form. And I've been doing that, and that's why all of these new things have been presented to me. So that's very simply how I got to this point.
Yeah. Well, and being open to those things that are new, even if we don't know we can do them, is really exactly where that growth comes from, right? That aspect, the minute you decided to give it a try, is where the growth comes from. And you don't have to see it coming. You don't know what it may be. You don't need to understand that's the right moment. Now it's gonna happen when it's supposed to happen. And when we look at things like this, and we take a look at that objective position of, wow, we're really selling ourselves short as human beings and the potential of what we can do. Well, then all of a sudden we start taking a bigger look at even those kind of things, looking into the quantum aspects or theories. And now we're looking from a position that we didn't even know we knew how to do. But now that we've been taught, or now that we've taught ourselves what this quantum theory or what this quantum aspect of life is about, things become so much more than us. We get so small in this tiny little universe. We get so sometimes very overwhelmed with the manner of information that will come through when you're in that space to receive, input about what you don't know, or insight about the upcoming whatevers, or, it does help, absolutely. And so when you're in a position to receive what you don't know, that's where the learning comes from, that aspect, that pure aspect itself.
Now, here's I really like what you said about being open to receive, and then your intuition sort of unlocks itself and you start seeing and understanding things in a new perspective. That's absolutely been my experience. And a lot of people who are going through this journey of self-change have probably experienced similar. So it's somewhat terrifying when you're actually opened up and you start receiving things in your internal dialogue that never really came to you before. Like, I had a thought the other day, oh my gosh, what if the person that I'm supposed to settle down with is the person that this all started with, like nearly 2 decades ago, when I was, still like in lovesick, horny 20-something mode where nobody could get through to me. And I had that absolutely terrible psychic reading that sent me to a therapist 3 times a week because I was just such a wreck over it. What if that was the person that I was supposed to settle down with? And, then the reality set to, nah, there's no way that could happen. We had absolutely zero in common. We didn't this person had never played a video game in their life. They didn't like classical music. They were not into metaphysics or astrology. So then what the heck is the function of this relationship? Why am I being shown this person? Well, I mean, I think it was a throwaway connection at the end of the day. But then, that little inner voice just kind of says, but what if it's not? What if that really was the person? And that this distance, or, all of this time apart is so that they can grow, so that this can be right. And then the shuddering feeling comes in like, I don't know what I think about that. I'm not sure if that's what I want. And if it's not absolutely perfect in the way that I want it to be from how I've worked on myself, then I'm just going to say, no, send it back. Let's try again.
Yeah. And that should be the case, that should be the selling point for you, that you didn't miss the right guy to begin with. You got to know that if that individual is meant to be in your life in the future, they'll come back around, no matter how odd, bizarre, or, out of element it should seem to be, they will come back around. So when someone walks down the road and they repent for 20 years because they think they lost the right one so long ago, the reality of it is that one wasn't supposed to be in your life. Because look at what you've been able to succeed without that influence. And I think if you were to weigh what you've got as far as knowledge, education, experience right now, compared to what you would have led a life of then for the last 20 years, I think you'd find the you that we have right now is the better person. So don't question, don't beat yourself up, don't overanalyze. Oh, well, maybe I let the wrong one go, or no. Even if you let them go for whatever that needed to be at the time, or vice versa, the fact is, if they're meant to be in your future, they will be. Period.
Now, here's the question though, like for you, Beretta, especially when you were younger and metaphysics basically didn't even exist in the world. That was more like crazy people talk back when you were coming of age with a lot of these matters. So, my question to you is, how were you able to make sense or navigate the intuitive side of things where it's just sort of like, I don't know where this is coming from, but it's really scary because I know it's true? How do you get past that
Yeah.
hurdle? Because I've definitely been experiencing that recently.
Well, and that can be scary to think that, wow, there are really things out there like that I knew, but I didn't know, you know? So this is where when you start getting all the little linings ripped off and you're seeing nothing but meat, then now you're looking at the real deal. So for a lot of years, didn't know I was different than anybody. Of course, I thought I was just like everybody else. They could do whatever they could read me like I could read them. Now, and I'm just going to briefly touch on the reason my skills were as fine-tuned as they were growing up is because I had a very abused childhood. So my inner knowing came from the need to protect myself. That's how I fine-tuned it. Now, did I know it was anything ESP, psychic intuition? No, I didn't. I was just trying to survive in a very hostile, abusive family. So that now, and fast forward even to my late 20s, I knew a little bit about things because my mom had books by Edgar Casey, and she did an ARE group, and I did that for a little while, and I found that very stimulating. And wow, what if that's real? What if anybody could do what this guy does? Never once thinking that would be me at some point in the future. And it didn't really make sense until I got so far in the future that I could look after the fact and say, oh, that's why that happened the way it did. Because I had so many experiences, not only as a kid growing up, but in my younger 20s, before my lid was ripped off, and I had to decide, I had to choose what I was going to be, a normal, secular individual, normal being the majority, not because they were right and I was wrong, but the majority of folks that are out there are running around not even knowing there's anything bigger than themselves. All they are looking at is what they need for that very moment. I need $1.50 for the parking meter. So what I did was I grew backwards. I grew out of the need of knowing whether I was protected or not. And finally, and it's not like a yay, it happened, but when I had a catastrophe hit my world at 27, I really started questioning a lot of what my strength had been built on. My faith up to that point was built on that it would protect me and it would never let anything happen to me, and it would not for any reason want to cause me pain or sorrow or grief. And that's exactly what happened at 27. So here I am fighting with this duality of, do I like this concept that there is a bigger thing that says, yes, even that has to happen, even though it was ugly, it was real, it was very, very unpleasant. And so I grew from the need to know, the need of knowing what was out there, because if I couldn't make sense out of why something catastrophic could happen that would affect me the way it did, it didn't happen to a catastrophe was to themselves, but it affected me. And so I had to grow knowing that I was rolling the dice right there. This is a crapshoot. I'm going to roll the dice and it's going to work or it's not. And so I basically did survive out of that situation, became a stronger, more confident individual, because from that moment on, I never questioned or doubted my intuition. And I had issues with the issue of needing more. I needed to know there was something out there, and I needed to know it right now because I was on the edge. I was really literally like over my point of taking any more, and I begged for something from spirit, and I got it. And I got it in exactly the way I would need to wake me up and stop me with the crying and the boo-hooing and the this and the that, and implanted in me such a secure peace and wisdom and knowing that there is more out there, indeed more out there, and that people needed to know this. And it wasn't about me wanting to show people what I could do, but people needed to know there's more out there here on the earth plane. And so I began my search in metaphysics to find out what that was all about and then become what I was going to be. And the sense of the sense of how it all set itself up and happened did not escape me, because the revelation of going from one relationship to another and losing someone very valuable to me that I counted on dearly daily so I could go about my day and make things okay. Being a single mom of 3 children at that point put me in a position of normalcy. And by that I said, I have to pay attention to these children and let them grow up right. I'm not going to tell them how to think or what to play or what to feel. I need them to grow it organically. So I give them choice, and I didn't grow them in such a way that, they were all about the metaphysical and the spiritual and the guru. I didn't share any of that with them in a manner of, here, this is Sunday, you have to do this. Go sit down in the corner and read this book. I never did that to my children. I did take them to secular churches just to give them the opportunity and seeing that there's a different point of view no matter where you're at. Doesn't mean you're wrong, it's just a different point of view. And I helped myself heal from the catastrophe, knowing that someday there was going to be more to it. I had to just wait for the Sunday. Well, I kicked my ass, the filler between then and the time that it really happened. You can get yourself in all kinds of trouble wondering when that time frame is going to come hand in hand, having things handed to you so that you could play. But all of that helped me grow and know that what I needed to do was become as authentic and strong as I could be. And then when I was given the green light to play, I did, and I enjoyed it so thoroughly. And that's where I found the people 15 years after the catastrophe was when I finally found the people that I could become associated with, so I could say, yeah, those are my peeps. I'm one of them. And that would be those people in the metaphysical world with gifts and properties of understanding and knowledge, knowing how to put things together, knowing how to present it, being able to teach it in a way to a younger generation and to the adults that walk around half their life going, I don't know, I think I'm just stark crazy nuts. And let so many people understand with what they have to work with now. And hopefully that will trigger enough of that. Our brain isn't even, the function of our brain isn't totally tapped as far as the full surface. So hopefully with this new wave of recognition, that's going to be something that's addressed on a daily basis in in like a regular school academic setting. I mean, they already have things in other countries that develop the children's intuition actually in a school or a structured setting. It's part of their everyday practice. And, I take a look at that and I think, why can't we do that? Because our children are growing up being mean because they don't have any structure. And although my kids aren't mean, I can see where it would have been a little bit better that they had a lot more access to what I was doing, but I didn't know what the right thing was at the time because I was a young mother. And they're okay with who I am now, and they're pretty much okay with who they are, so I didn't mess up that bad.
Well, and here's the thing, to your point, and then after this, we'll get to our calling from area code 231. We want to say hi to you, let you know that we are listening, and we know you're there. We'll get to you in just a moment. I just want to finish up the discussion here. So, Viretta, you make a great point about when things begin to open up for us. And I've had the experience a lot where people who are very traditionally religious, when they become so deep rooted in their faith, whether if that's in a traditional sense or in a mystic sense, it doesn't really matter. Their intuition opens up, and a lot of that ends up becoming very scary to them. Like, why am I, perceiving things in, this different way that I never had before? And so what's interesting is that in modern psychology, we actually refer to the experience of seeing and hearing things that other people don't, which would traditionally be considered as like schizophrenic behavior, we classify that now as a religious experience. So I wish that term would have existed 20 some odd years ago when I first became a psych patient, because that would have totally given me a different outcome in life as opposed to being hideously misdiagnosed for almost 15 years. And so, what ends up happening with a lot of people is that when they become so deep rooted in their faith, they become intuitive and they don't really know how this happens. And it becomes very scary to them. So then it's kind of like, well, this does not, they're conditioned to believe, well, this does not worship the one true God. So I need to turn this part of myself off. Now, what advice do you have for those people in getting past that mental hurdle of there really is so much more to the world, you just have to be open to it?
Well, one step at a time. One step at a time is the best bet in anything you're wanting to learn, especially if there are going to be a lot of examples that show why it was you were doing what you shouldn't have done. So one step at a time, get yourself into that moment of commitment, of motivation. When you set yourself a goal and you say, I'm going to get so much of this done today and then I'll stop and play. You have to go slow to break into. You can't expect to run right into this. And that's the hardest piece of this information people don't want to hear. You can't run into this. You have to take your time. You have to learn it individually. You have to understand that if someone tells you they would or would not rely on something to make something happen, walk away from those people, because everything that we have is an identity reinforcer, which means just because you like black and it works well for you does not mean that's going to be my color. It's just as simple as that.
And also remember that as we approach death, as we begin to cross into the beyond, whenever the soul is ready to make those choices, we do become in tune with a much higher energy that's greater than ourselves. So that does open up intuition in a different way. I know this isn't a conversation about that, but there is that element of things as well that can open up for you.
You betcha, and we can have great conversation on that, because of the experience I've had over the years in hospice, I understand even in the death process, it has to be an individual's own way. It cannot be something you've seen in a book or somebody told you about or any other kind of ritual. It happens the way it happens for you, period.
I've actually been thinking about doing an Alchemy Annex episode titled Death Would Be Merciful. That would be a great one for us to get into.
Well, yeah, a lot of times that's exactly right. Then you got to say, well, do you want to keep doing this over and over until you get it? Well, shit, that.
So let's get off to our phone line here and catch up with caller from area code 231. Hi, you're on the show with us. Can you hear me right now? May I have your name and date of birth, please?
Hi, my name is Tia. It's 9/24/70, and thanks for taking my call.
9/24/70. All right. And what time were you born?
4:05 in the afternoon.
And where were you born, Tia?
Munising, Michigan.
Lansing, Michigan. Okay, perfect. All right. And Tia, do you have a question for us, or would you like a general about health, love, or career?
Just a general would be wonderful.
About health, love, or career, which one?
Career would be great.
Perfect. All right. Viretta, what you got for Tia here?
All right, Tia. So,
Hi, thank you.
hi, honey. I got to tell you, you have wonderful energy. The minute I tapped into you, it's like hugging my sister or brother or something. I want to say, what question did you say you wanted? Career?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So, to be genuine with you, I got to be honest and say, why are we still looking at career when you should be amping up the whole like getting ready to retire thing? I get you can't. I understand that, but just be knowing in the fact that you could be self-employed and doing so much better than you will be doing it for someone else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
So, oh wow, this is where I got somebody beat me on the head to talk to you. So what I want to say is, go forward knowing nothing is permanent. Everything should be discussed. And if it doesn't feel good to you, walk on by, because there's so many more out there. And if you're really just not in that place of wanting to put energy into it, it's because your body and your psyche both kind of know that you really don't have to do much more of whatever you're needing for career-wise in the future. And you'd be much more blessed doing it for yourself than you are giving your energy away to somebody else for nickels.
Yeah, I agree with that. I totally agree with that. I'm just getting back into the workforce. I've been sick for a long time, and it's really difficult. I'm not having much luck.
You're not going to have, don't even look at this as like, okay, if I can't get a job, does that mean it's not an option? No, it just means you're going to shift up how you're looking. And like I said, I think self-employment would be a better road to take. I mean, it's going to be one, like Ernesto and I were talking about, getting out of your comfort zone. It's going to be one of those things that you've got to get out of I can't do that, or, I wouldn't be able to do that. In the back of your brain, going, yeah, you can. What are you saying? What are you saying out loud? Yeah, you can. But the reality of it is you're way late in the game trying to start way new things like that. You really want to retire, but you can't. So this is what I'm saying to you. Let whatever you do from now until you retire be fantastic. Let it be yours. Let it be fun. Let it be just go out rolling, rocking and rolling. Go out rocking and rolling. And you'll have what you need at the end. You'll have what you need. So let's let Ernesto give you a little bit of what he can find, and then give you a little more detail.
Yeah, so Tia, the big thing that I pick up on the work situation from a general perspective is that I think the nature of why you're sort of wanting to know more about this is because there's like some health issues, and as you stated that you haven't been worked for a while because of health issues, and while those health issues may have sort of kind of resolved or subsided for a little bit, there's still just a lot of lingering fatigue. It's almost like a pestilence, it's sort of like either there's perhaps maybe some side effects of an autoimmune disease or some other type of thing that just knocks you on your ass and you can't really do a whole lot about it. But meanwhile, people still have to pay bills, so what the heck am I supposed to do until then? So
right.
I really feel like that for you in this whole process, where you would benefit the most is creating peace and calm and quiet for yourself, whether if that's meditation at home, like creating a meditation room or sacred space for yourself. This is going to be how you're going to create that energy. I know you weren't here for the first part of our program, but I asked myself, how did I end up at where I'm at in life right now? And that's very simply because I have only continue to do the things that bring me joy in my day-to-day lifetime or routine, and that's really helped me so that the structures and the people that are truly right for me are presented on a silver platter. I feel like in your case that may not be as easy because of a lot of either the underlying health causes or just very simply because you're too tired to deal with any of these things. So how you would create that for yourself is by creating peace of mind, and that'll be through meditation, whether if it's Qigong or some other type of gong circle or whatever meditation of your choice, even candle work. Viretta might have some input on that, but I really feel like that's going to be what's going to not only just recharge your mind, but it'll give you a new sense of perspective about where the career is headed. I think ultimately, as far as the job is concerned, that the thing that you would benefit very much from would be to work for yourself. Absolutely do agree with that. And you would be doing some type of like either holistic work or perhaps science of mind kind of thing. This may even, delve into spirituality types of issues. But I really feel like that's going to be the industry where you're going to feel the most peace and comfort. But you just don't have the tools to do that yet. So the way that you're very simply going to accomplish this is by creating that peace of mind, because that's the only way that a lot of the health and the lack of energy issues are going to sort of resolve themselves or subside, because that's the real bear in the room at this point is the fact that I'm too tired to do any of this, or how the heck am I supposed to find a job when the rules of technology have changed so much and I don't know the ins and outs of any of these things anymore.
Yeah, it's been pretty difficult. I've had a couple of stage 4 cancers and 2 autoimmune diseases. So yeah, my health is not very good, and I am exhausted all the time. But I'm on my own, and I don't really have much choice right now. So I'm just trying to do the best I can.
So maybe find the best environment, the most motivated, the happiest, the friendliest. Shop around while you can to find the places that you'd want to work. Forget about what the title of the job is. So maybe it's slinging coffee down at the local coffee stand. Maybe it's playing with pound puppies. Maybe it's not doing really anything other than keeping you on your feet and getting you one step closer down the road to knowing what you're really going to have the opportunity at. And like I said, your best bet right now is to just do whatever you need to go solo and do it on your own, and don't look back.
Okay, thank you so much.
And then here's another thing. I just want to leave this with you, Tia. This is in my resources, something that I was turned on to recently. Check out trustedhousesitters.com. It's a website for people who are going on vacation and they need somebody to take care of their pets. A lot of times you can end up with really fancy places that have swimming pools and things like that, but it would be a way to do like some odd jobs and to be able to relax while making some money at the same time.
That's a great idea. I never thought of that. Did you say trustedhousesitters.com?
Yes, it is there. I believe there is a paid membership so that because that's kind of how they vet everybody to keep the thugs out. But it is an extremely reputable website, and it's for people, professionals mostly, who are looking for people to take care of their things while they're gone.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the advice. I will definitely follow up with that.
For sure. Well, we do want to thank you for giving us a call, Tia, and be sure to give us a call back to let us know how it turns out.
I will. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Take care. You too. Until next time. Many blessings. Okay, perfect. So what a great call, Viretta. This happens a lot, that people are sort of stuck in these scenarios where it's just kind of like, what the heck am I supposed to do when I can't get myself out of it?
Right.
And this is something that's endemic, I think, of society anymore. That maybe if it's because of our lack of boundaries, or because just other life issues like our health gets in the way, whatever that may be, that we have to draw the line and say, what am I going to do that's healthy for myself? I know in my chart for sure that I have the choice of I can work on my health issues or I can pursue a career. In my early life, my real career doesn't pick up until later in life. My things don't pick up until much later on. So that's when the magic starts to happen for me. But if push came to shove and I truly had to go out and do my own thing to fend for myself in today's world, get a job out of college and, start a life and all of that kind of stuff, it's not that I couldn't do that. It's more the fact that everything else in my life suffers because I'm unable to manage to my health, because now I have to worry about working in some crap environment around people I don't really care for, just so that way I can make a paycheck. So, I suffer as a result of choosing to take care of these other money matters. But then there comes a point where I realized a long time ago, well, wouldn't it be easier to just kind of inch along very, very slowly, just get through the day? A lot of times in my 20s was my objective, was just try not to jump off of a bridge, because I just couldn't take it anymore. It was so boring sometimes. But I kept pushing along, doing the same things that I know how to do every day. And now that's generated enough momentum for me that it's given me a sense of fulfillment and purpose out of life. So this is something that I think that is important for a lot of us to remember when we get caught in these scenarios that are somewhat difficult or tricky, where it's like, I know what I have to do, but it's sort of like I have to do a deal with the devil in the meantime just to make any of that possible. So that's where we can rely on something like the chart of, so Tia was going through some health issues. Well, have you thought about creating a meditation space? Finding that peace of mind, peace and quiet. That's a huge thing for her. And then we talk about looking at things like, trusted house sitters. It's a great resource for people who may be looking to make some money, but that don't want to get it in a traditional way through a company kind of thing, that they have other things they need to tend to. So that will be a way to get that done. So what advice do you have, Viretta, for people who are caught up in these difficult scenarios that they just have to focus on making it to the end of the day?
Well, certainly you've got to coach them on how to, de-escalate whatever's going on in their brains so they can make it through the day, so they aren't running to the bridge and giving them then the tools to know how, and if they don't in any way, give them the tools to know how to do it when they're really in phases. And so I tell people, nothing is permanent. Everything comes in waves, which means it comes in, it goes out. It rolls over you, you're okay. You've got to wait until the wave subsides. That's all. And it's never an indefinite wave. You know for a fact that it's a wave that will come to an end. If there's a little problem called ego, and knowing that we want out our way, we don't like this for any reason, and I don't really want to wait all that much I don't want to wait around to have the conclusion I want. And there's where we're really at ground zero. Can you be patient enough to do? So everything comes in waves. You've got to be patient to be able to let that happen. And an easy or a good tool in those time frames when you OCD'd everything in the house, you cleaned everything up to every speck on the wall that you didn't have. Now it's time to learn things. Now's the time to take that energy pent up and apply it to things that you can be creative with. While you're waiting, as long as you allow yourself to be distracted, you're not going to run into problems. You're not going to run into the need to ruminate over why that happened or only if, and if I ever have the chance again, and all the subtitles, how go in your brain. And compartmentalize really what's going on so that you don't let it flow over into that entire day and everybody in your day and anything that might be positive with it. Because if you let your pissed off moment of that one thing interrupt you, then you got attention to pay to really what's going on in your head. Where is this emotionally coming from that you feel like you're getting messed with? And then taking a look at, really what has to happen with that to calm down a little bit and talk yourself into a good space and not into oblivion. And never, if you ever listen to spirits, this is a question I get a lot. How do I know that I'm listening to spirit or I'm just listening to my own ego? Okay, your ego is going to beat you down to make you learn. Your ego is going to be brutal with you in any possible way. Comparison, telling you you're dumb, telling you you're more entitled than anybody else. Yes, that's a beatdown. Anything that would happen in a negative emotional way is ego. Spirit is only ever going to give you a positive affirmation. They are never going to make the decision for you along the way unless it's a predetermined decision you've made already. So that's a little ditty about how do I know how to tell the difference when I want to meditate.
Well, and the other thing too that I've added to my regular everyday rhetoric, I talk a lot about my internal dialogue. This is sort of, I think, a non-threatening way and a very clear way to describe what it actually refers to when we have thoughts that just kind of come to us out of the blue. We don't really know what that is. I mean, we all have an internal dialogue, right? We're always thinking about something, whether if that's paying attention to this show or thinking about a conversation that we had with somebody in the past or how we felt in any given scenario or situation. That's something that we can all relate to, but remember that our internal dialogue, when something just comes to us out of the blue, like I've been going through something recently where I have like healing information that's presented to me like, oh, you should take this supplement. And it's like, what? That doesn't make any sense. I wasn't even thinking about that. It just kind of shows up. Or whenever I think out loud quite often, and I always describe to people the concept of spirit guides, that it's sort of like having an invisible friend when you were younger. And it's the same sort of concept, except it just exists as we're adults. These are spirits that are in the ethers. They're guides most of the time. They might be a soul family. That's a whole separate discussion. But the whole point is the fact that whenever you're spoken to by spirit guides, they have their own rhetoric or their own vernacular. Like they speak to you in a very specific way. And you can always tell what's a spirit guide versus this is just my own internal thoughts of what I'm thinking about. Like it is not part of my everyday speech that I refer to myself or other guys as bro. But my spirit guides call me that sometimes to catch my attention. I don't know where this comes from. So I know when I begin a sentence with that, then I'm probably tapping into some higher energy and that I need to pay the hell attention. And I do. And what ends up happening is I'm shown things, whether if that's in astrology or in real life, whatever it may be. And that really totally changes where I'm at and gives me some perspective. So that's something else that you got to pay attention to is what energy are you really dealing with here? Is this a guide or is this my ego? Well, pay attention to how it's being presented, because spirit has its own way of getting through to you, and you'll always know what that is.
Right. Especially, if you're looking, you'll always know what that is. So, yeah, most definitely.
Well, we do want to catch up with Patricia here at area code 216, so let me take this call, and then we will close out the show and see you guys in a week and a half or so. Hello, Patricia. Are you on the line with me? Can you hear me right now? Just a moment. Sorry. Oh, are you there? Can you hear me?
Hello.
Outstanding.
Yes. How are you all?
Perfect. Now, I have a question for you. Would you like a general about health, love, or career, or do you have a question?
Oh, I'll take a general. Let's see. Let's do career.
Okay, Viretta, what you got for Patricia here?
All right, Patricia.
Hi.
Hi. So I think what I'm feeling for you is, I don't know how to. So it's spiritual in a way. It's like a motivation totem. You're going to have to be pretty aggressive to make things change or make things happen right now. And I don't mean to flip somebody on their butt, tell them to listen. But somehow you're going to need to really get their attention because you're coming off blasé. And that's what's hurting you in going to look or even sending people a resume. And the thing is you've done so much, you want to get it all in there, or should all that should be applicable. But the reality of it is after a while they hear it in their brain. So narrow your looking scope for whatever it is that you want, whatever it is that you can afford to have, what the pay will afford you to live comfortably. Don't worry about whether you think you can do it or not. It's kind of like the last one. I know you'd say, I'm too old to learn anything new. Not if it's fun. If it's fun, go for it, girlfriend. You have a lot of spare time. And in that way, whatever this is that you will make new has to happen on your energy, your part. It's not going to be handed to you now.
Thank you.
Okay, so Patricia, taking a look here, there is a new job on the horizon, by the way, and this is very clear. This is very obvious. If you're watching our YouTube cast right now, you will see that I'm going to put some shapes up here on the screen. There's going to be some squares, and then there's also going to be a circle. So the circle represents just the planets that are out in the sky right now, and the squares represent what's actually fixated in your chart. Like we can't really move those energies just because of how slow they are, and especially the planets at your birth just don't move at all. So when we look at those things here, what we're really looking to do is to line up a midpoint with this whole thing. So that when you see that those circular shapes at the bottom in the third chart, as they move through the sky and then form a perfect symmetry with the square in the second chart, then that's going to create a midpoint with the planets in your first chart. So that's going to not only just be a money opportunity, but that's also going to be a work-related money opportunity. That actual time frame, you're probably looking at something, I want to say like late August to September-ish is sort of what I'm getting here, when all of that's going to line up, and that will be a new job opportunity. Do keep in mind, though, that if it's not a job, that this could also be something else that has to do with a son in this regard, and that's sort of what I'm picking up on here. And the difference between what you actually manifest is defined by your own actions. So if you're actively looking for work and taking strides in that direction, then that's what you're going to get. If you're actively doing work with your son issues, then that's what will happen there. Either way, the result will be positive. So that I do get that here, but it swings either way in terms of the manifestation based on your own actions at this time.
Okay, yeah, I'm just going to sign up for these side gigs, or say tutoring English with Cambly. I'm going to reapply again. And, do these basically, they're positions part-time, being a grading assistant with a company, grading papers. I've applied to that, but, start putting that attention and visioning and plus, and then really just, focus in and just write my talk, and then, really get clear on the audience and, just practicing that and preparing for that, and then sign on for a house sitter, even though the house sitting would be free, which would be good, but sign on probably do some pet sitting with small animals. So probably with a rover, and that would bring in some money. And so yes, and like I said, I'm preparing, to get on to Southwest, going through my containers and, throwing away stuff, decluttering, and just really doing my best to get down to the, what I need and what I'll use. But I still am going to be having to ship things, so it will work out.
The job is definitely virtual, so don't limit yourself that it has to be in person. I think that anything that deals with online stuff, that you'll do well with that, especially online things and communication. So you mentioned like grading papers. I'm sure there are TAs out there someplace in universities that need that type of backup work. That would be something that you could do, that they outsource their work to you, kind of thing. A traditional company doesn't look so great. I'm going to be honest with you about that. It could happen, but I would really expect you to get better results and input or output, from doing those online types of operations. So it'll be distance learning kinds of things.
Oh yeah, that's what I want is the remote, and then whatever pet sitting I do, that's fine. But probably get 4 or 5 of those jobs, because they're going to be either seasonal, temp, or long term, and that's fine. And then just work on my writing, my speaking, and eventually with the coaching. So yes, and said just get the New Mexico, and yes. So anyway, thank you very much.
Okay, for sure.
And have a good evening.
We do want to thank you for calling in. We'll catch up with you next time. Until then, take care and many blessings. Okay, and we do want to let you guys know that we will be back with you on the 6th of August. That will be in about like 10 days now or so. That'll be our next episode of the Alchemy Annex. There is no program this coming Sunday because it is the 5th Sunday of the month. So we'll be taking the next week off. It'll be nice to have a little bit of a break here. Beretta, definitely know that you could use a break for some time off as well because you've got all kinds of craziness going on in your neck of the woods.
Sure is. But that suits me, that's perfect in timing. Everybody, you gotta let know things happen where they're supposed to. Don't try to mess it up.
Yeah, so
if it's,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if it isn't one thing, it's another. But don't bring it to you. Don't worry about it.
And it's going to be, I don't know about what you feel, Viretta, for an overview forecast of the month of August, but at least in my chart, it looks like it's just going to be tremendous. It's a pinball machine of energy that's about to happen. So everybody do your very best to stay afloat because all of that stuff that we've been hurtling for in the universe and all the planets moving together is this really fast forward motion that is all coming to a close. So we will begin to start to see those stories wrap up, or at the very least project us into a new direction that is of new heights that unlike what we were ever expecting before.
Yeah.
So we do want to thank all of our guests for giving us a call today, and we will catch up with you guys on August 6th. Until next time, good luck and good night.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio.